Every great adventure starts in a tavern, or at least it feels that way. D&D and taverns go hand in hand. Over the course of a campaign, your players will come across all sorts of drinking holes and fine establishments to kick back, stay the night, and have a blast with newfound friends. In this video, I want to give you some fun and unique taverns to toss into your adventures. I'll even tell you each place's signature drink and give you some plot hooks to draw from for some extra intrigue. Without further ado, let's get started. Our first tavern is built to stand out, literally. Painted bright red with a huge sign out front, the Hot Rock Pub is a dwarven tavern that fits perfectly in a city deep within the mountains or on the edge of a volcano. Inside, the air feels hot and muggy. Stone tables and metal chairs sit around a central well, but instead of water, lava bubbles up from below the tavern, filling the interior with orange light. It's rowdy in here, as dwarves and outsiders drink, laugh, and play games in the heat. If your party is willing to sweat it out, they'll find a place that's as welcoming as it is sweltering. That lava well on the floor isn't just for show though. It's essential to the place's signature drink, Hot Rock Rum. Made from alcohol, molasses, and cave-growing pears, the bartenders use metal tongs to pull glowing stones out of the magma, dropping them into the drinks that sizzle and foam from the heat. The result is a rum that's as hot as it is sweet. If your players can manage to down a couple steins without burning their tongue too badly, they'll definitely earn the respect of the locals. Besides getting drunk, your party could help the pub solve a bit of a lava problem they've been having. The well has been bubbling way more than normal recently, nearly boiling over, and your players will have to go into the caverns under the tavern to discover what's causing it. Some sort of level-appropriate fire monster, like magmans, salamanders, or a young red dragon. This is also a great location for your players to get a beat on what's happening in town. Soldiers, miners, and blacksmiths would all congregate here, and who knows what rumors they've heard. Your players might have to buy them some rum first though. Picture the fanciest tavern you can think of. Now imagine everything was upside down, and sideways, and all over really. That's Haphazard, a mind-bending upscale watering hole for the rich and fancy. This one fits best in the nicer part of town, a place where nobility, rich merchants, and other upper-class citizens can go to get a drink and relax in a setting that feels otherworldly. Owned and operated by an elven man named Quentin Ingar III, a powerful mage in his own right, stepping into Haphazard is like entering a dream. Tables with fine silk cloths and candles sit not just on the floor, but the ceiling and walls as well. Beautiful paintings hang at all different angles. Patrons walk along all the surfaces, and drinks float along next to them, never spilling their contents. The bar itself is on the opposite wall from where you enter, but no matter where you sit, you're bound to feel a little in awe, or maybe a little queasy. Your mileage may vary. As fits a weird place like this, its signature drink is an upside-down cocktail, served in a delicate glass that floats upside down. This drink is sweet and not too boozy. It's more for show than to actually get drunk, but the concoction will float along with your players as they navigate the tavern's walls and ceilings, always appearing inverted from their angle, but never spilling a drop. As for plot hooks, Quentin could be a great quest giver for connecting your working class party to the activities of the city's upper class. He could hire them as bouncers for a big party, knowing that one of his rivals will try to sabotage the evening. Or he could introduce them to big players who need a favor. A merchant lord that wants a lost shipment recovered, a noble that requires help finding an old family heirloom. Having a powerful mage owe you a favor isn't something to scoff at, especially one who can get you free drinks. Not every tavern is as glamorous as Haphazard. In fact, some are the polar opposite in both look and location. Built on the edge of a river that surrounds a massive bog, Soggy Swamp Lodge isn't pretty. The structure looks like a sprawling wooden cabin with one big central building and two wings that were clearly added on later. The roof is covered in moss, and your party will see both horses hitched out front and boats tied to docks that extend out over the river. Inside, the lodge is loud and rowdy. Tables of rough-hewn wood, all different shapes and sizes, welcome both travelers looking for a quick stop or swamp dwellers getting a reprieve from the wetland. Mounted candles drip wax down the walls, the long bars covered in old ale stains, and taxidermied gator hides and troll heads line the interior. Soggy Bob himself, a friendly half-ogre in a big straw hat, mans the bar, and two side openings lead to the wings. One is labeled Gamblin' and the other Wrastlin'. Your party can decide if they want to play dice games and cards in the first wing, or gambled on some old-fashioned wrestling matches in the second. If they want to jump in themselves, I'd run it as a skill challenge using athletics checks, allowing your players to try and use other skills in between rounds to boost their odds. Needless to say, there is never a quiet moment at the lodge. Your players will probably smell the lodge's signature drink before they taste it, on account of it being spilled all over the floor and tables. Swamp water. The concoction is as brown and murky as the river that runs outside the tavern, and tastes a bit like they might have pulled from it too. Earthy and bitter, it's an acquired taste, and unfortunately it's not particularly strong either. Bob likes to keep it watered down, so his patrons have to buy more if they want to get truly wild. Still, being the only game for miles around will do wonder for your sales, so plenty of swamp water is being passed around the tables. Considering the tavern's close proximity to the swamp, the easiest plot hooks to have here will relate to exploring the wetlands. Catching a really dangerous creature that's been getting a little too close for comfort, like a large troll or green dragon, is an easy one, or trying to find ancient ruins being reclaimed by the bog. And if they need a reason to go, consider that not every debt they get in the gambling room has to be about money. Some folks might be more interested in playing for favors. Considering how broke they'll be after betting on wrestling, they might even prefer it that way. For the next location, we'll have to leave the ground for the sky. That's because it's brought to you by this video sponsor, Homie and the Dude, and their original campaign setting, The Wandering Tavern. The Wandering Tavern is a Studio Ghibli-inspired, system-agnostic TTRPG setting. But if you play D&D 5e like me, they have those stats included too. A giant airship filled with intrigue, the floating city is a traveler's paradise by day, and a haunt for all kinds of spirits at night. As someone whose favorite Studio Ghibli movies are Castle in the Sky and Spirited Away, this is literally my jam. It's packed with plot hooks, mysteries, and everything you need to craft a campaign. I'm talking creature stat blocks, battle maps, magic items, and multiple taverns for your players to get lost in. If you already have your own setting, no problem. The Wandering Tavern is the perfect pit stop for your players to visit and dive into a whole new sort of adventure. It is impossible to read through all of the content they put together without having your imagination run wild. I used it to create a one-shot for some of my players, and we had an absolute blast delving into the tavern's characters and locations. It's obvious how much love and attention went into the setting, from the beautiful artwork to the actual recipes they've included which you can make at home. I really can't recommend it enough. If you're interested in getting a copy of The Wandering Tavern, or checking out some of the other content Homie and the Dude have put out, head over to hatdbuilder.com and use the code BARD10 to get 10% off anything you purchase. It helps me out, helps out a bunch of cool people who worked on the book, and helps you out because you get access to such a fun setting. Thank you to Homie and the Dude for sponsoring this video, and let's move on to a tavern that's a little more grounded. Literally. This next place highlights both ways people typically black out, by alcohol or knockout. The Punch Drunk Club is an older establishment that from the outside looks like it's seen better days. The stone cracks in places, and the statues of boxers that flank the entrance are both chipped and worn from years of weathering. But when they step inside, they'll find a club that's alive with patrons ready for a fight. The room smells like old tobacco and sweat, and the tables surround a central ring. There's a bar to the left and a betting window to the right with paintings of old champions hanging above the stall. Your players can sit ringside and watch the fights, or jump in themselves and try to take down the champ. Just like the wrestling matches at the Swamp Lodge, you could run this as a skill challenge, or have your players bare-knuckle box using unarmed strikes until only one is left standing. Beyond the bets and the booze, the tavern can also serve as a temple of sorts. In a back corner, there's a shrine to whatever god of fighting, strength, or battle that your setting has, with offerings in the form of teeth that have been knocked out of the jaws of boxers. Gnarly, but if they're willing to put their bodies on the line, your players may just earn their own painting one day. Even if you don't get in the ring, you're not out of the woods yet. Now if you try a shot of their signature drink, the Throat Punch. A lot of vodka, a little cinnamon, and a bad burn awaits anyone brave enough to try it. Being the type of place it is, there's always someone at the bar willing to challenge your party to a drink-off. Hopefully they have high constitution, otherwise these shots might knock them out. An establishment like the Punch Drunk Club also attracts a lot of individuals looking for new talent. Crime bosses, mercenary leaders, merchants who need a favor. Plenty of folks will be here trying to find fighters for odd jobs and shady dealings. The perfect place to toss in a plot hook for your party to find. Old champions looking for worthy successors might also be hanging around. If one of your players can take them in the ring, they might be willing to open up about lost treasures, sordid rumors, and all sorts of other tantalizing tales that can set your party on their next adventure. The Feywild is a realm where nothing is quite as it seems, and as such, its taverns should be equally strange. So when your players hear about the Speakeasy, they'll be surprised to find a swanky but altogether normal-looking establishment. Long polished bar, communal tables where Fey of all sorts congregate, with smaller booths for the sort of deals the plane is known for. Sure, the staff might seem to be a bit ruder than normal, pointing out things on your players and their personalities that they don't like, but the large barrels of wine behind the bar should be enough to persuade them to stay a while. But as soon as they start indulging in drinks and chatting with the locals, they'll find that everyone here seems to be brutally honest. That's because while the tavern is pretty standard, the wine they're drinking is not. It acts like a truth serum, preventing those who are enjoying their drinks from telling any lies. Unfortunately, your players may find it hard to keep their secrets in here. a dangerous thing when surrounded by fae looking for any way to exploit your party. Obviously, their signature drink is whatever's causing everyone to speak their minds, and they call it loose lips. It's basically red wine, but whenever your players take a sip, they'll need to make a DC 18 charisma save, or be forced to only tell the truth for an hour. If they can, it could be worth sneaking some out for future interrogations. Being a bar in the Feywild also makes adding plot hooks a breeze. This tavern is loaded with powerful fae looking to make strange deals. Bring them 3 boggles, take out a rival archfey, slay the nearby Jabberwock. This bar also needs to keep its supply of loose lips flowing, so whatever fae owns the place could task your party with finding the materials they need to make the concoction, and who knows what they might encounter out in the wilds. The Fae realm can make for some really weird and wonderful adventures, and the speakeasy only adds to that vibe. Last but not least, even adventurers need a vacation. And what could be better for your weary group of players than a tropical beachside tavern? The Sugarsand Cabana is built right on the edge of the water, held up on stilts to avoid the waves at high tide. It's an open-air space with a wooden deck covered in a thatched roof of palm fronds. Wooden tables surround the bar in the back, where the smell of cooking fish and fruity concoctions wafts out of the kitchen behind. Musicians play calming tunes on a small stage, and honestly, your party might never want to leave. It's paradise. If your players want to get a little sloppy, they'll have to try the Cabana's signature rum, the Wanderer. Named for a group of adventurers who used to frequent the place, this is the kind of drink that can be very dangerous. Super sweet and packed with alcohol. A few cups of this, and your party will be singing sea shanties and dancing on tables with the best of them. Of course, being so close to the ocean will give you lots of opportunities to toss in some plot hooks and get your players out to sea. Sailors whose ships went down carrying treasure, pirate captains with maps to long-lost islands, salty sea dogs who have a grudge to settle. If you need an excuse for a seafaring adventure, you can introduce it over some drinks here. But they don't even have to leave the cabana for action to strike. Creatures like Chul and Kuatoa can storm the beach, attacking the tavern and forcing your party to fend them off. How does free drinks for life sound after they keep the place standing? Sounds pretty good to me. Those are a few of the taverns that I've thrown into my games, but I'd love to hear some of the ones that you or your players have loved at your own table in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like is always appreciated. If you want to see more, you should subscribe to the Bard's College. I make videos about D&D, DMing, and everything in between, so if you like this one, there's more to come. But for now, good luck, and remember, crit your players.